Hello everyone and welcome to my review of the F-14 A/B. This is looking at the original module that was released for DCS World. This is the one that contains the A early, the A export and the B. I'm not looking at the B upgrade version. That will certainly deserve a review in its own right, but that is far in the future right now. I need to get some time, well, actually playing it, and then some time to collect my thoughts about it. Also, I'm not going to be talking about the whole BU upgrade price point thing. I've already posted my views there. And honestly, since then, their explanation of wanting to pay the original developers their fair share has kind of moderated my opinions there. Also note that I am recording this before the BU upgrade has come out, which is coming with some improvements for the original module. I don't have access to those improvements. Perhaps not the best decision, but I felt like getting this video out there. With all that out the way, let's see what this module is like as of early July 2026. So then, as normal, we're going to be breaking this review into different parts. First off, we're going to be looking at how this module is in terms of its graphics, its sound, how it is as a digital museum piece. Then we'll talk about the single player aspects, what you can do with this playing on your own. Then we'll talk about its multiplayer aspects, how it performs relative to other aircraft, where it fits in the kind of DCS landscape, and how competitive it is all around. Anyway, first off then, how does this thing look? Well, inside the cockpit, no surprises here. This is a heat blur module, and it looks absolutely awesome. All of the surfaces look really, really nice. You've got a nice amount of weathering here. This is the kind of weathering that I like when it's not over the top. It looks like this is a used aircraft, but it looks like it's an aircraft that is still in active use, rather than something that has been sat in a museum for decades. We've got some chipping on well-worn areas, got some fraying, but all of that just serves to kind of highlight how realistic everything looks. Now, this is one of the older heat blur modules, so maybe it's not quite up there with some of their newer stuff, particularly things like the Phantom. They've definitely learned a bit about how to make things even more over the top, but honestly that's more saying nice things about their newer modules rather than any complaints I have about this one. Everything's looking nice, everything's looking crisp, just the right level of wear and tear. Also worth noting that in terms of the feel of this, there is a lot of nice shaking that you get when you're starting to enter stall conditions, pulling the envelope there. You can see it is bouncing around a lot, which gives it a really nice feel for this kind of late Cold War era. Not quite on the scale of the shakiness of, say, the Huey, but you definitely feel like you're flying a plane and not some modern supercomputer. Externally, again, no surprises. It is a heat blur module. Heat blur do such awesome things. This is really one of the top-looking external models that I can think of. Everything is just so detailed. Look at that textures. This isn't a custom texture, this is all just a default texture, and look at that perfect amount of grease staining, the scraping from the wings, everything is looking awesome. Animation wise, again, all looking really nice, particularly things like the afterburner effects there. It's just a beautiful aircraft to look at. Now, sound wise, again, we see they have put in a huge amount of effort here. Again, maybe not jumping out quite as much as the F4's sound design, which really kind of made me notice it. But here there are so many wonderful little cockpit sounds. You can hear Jester clicking away in the backseat as he adjusts the controls. All the controls feel very nice, solid, clunky. You get nice auditory feedback with the engine. You can hear it as it goes into afterburner. Hear it popping out, hear that constant whine, and definitely as you start to push the aircraft, start to get those wind vortices. Right, I hear both the wind, you hear the shaking, everything is really immersive there immediately. You get a lot of feedback. And externally, particularly the afterburners of these twin engines just sound downright awesome. So the gun sounds maybe aren't as impactful as some others. That's maybe what the F-14's gun sounds like, but it's a little bit more subdued than most aircraft that we're used to. So if what you want out of the module is just to feel as close as possible to feel like you're actually flying an F-14, then yeah, this absolutely captures it. No surprises there. As I said, this is Heatblur. Heatblur do amazing modules, and this is absolutely no exception. But just the sheer immersion of this, you feel like you are flying this old, late Cold War aircraft, giant aircraft, huge amounts of power. They've absolutely nailed it. Next up then, in terms of the single-player content that you get, there is a staggering huge amount for this. You have your normal cold start, takeoff, free flight, basic dogfight, instant actions. You've also got a whole load of instant actions for things like air-to-air refueling. You've got various different carrier landing setups to practice different approaches, integrated with the supercarrier module if you have that. They also have separate ones for the F-14A, so you do have the option for which version you're wanting to take out. And a lot of these are reproduced across multiple different maps here. Huge amount of options there just from instant actions. In terms of actual proper meaty missions, again, we've got a nice selection here. Both on the Caucasus and Persian Gulf is mostly where these are available, but these are generally full missions. Everything from cap to ground strike is catered for there. And because this is such a favourite aircraft and such an iconic aircraft, you have a massive amount of campaigns. It's just the ones that I've got installed now. Now, Operation Cage the Bear, Reforger, Reforger 2, and Final Hour are all free campaigns. Then we have 5 paid-for campaigns, including some absolutely awesome ones. This series by Reflected Simulations is massively addictive. I've played through Fear the Bones in full. I'm just starting on Speeded Angels now. I've heard some amazing things about these, including going all the way through to Zone 5. And we've got this Pair by Sandman Simulations. And on top of that, in terms of what's on the user file store, there's just so much. You can have fun in this thing on your own for hours and hours and hours on end. You're not going to run out of content for the F-14. So then on to maybe the main part of this. How competitive is this on a multiplayer scene? What can you do with this aircraft? In terms of where it fits in, it's very much late Cold War. and very, very early modern. It's one of those kind of transition aircraft, quite similar in abilities to, say, the Fulcrum. On your Cold War servers, this is going to be the very top aircraft there, if it is available there. Very often it's going to be restricted one way or the other in order to make it more balanced with everything else that is going on there. In those settings, though, it does tend to absolutely dominate. You have really, really good radar for Cold War era. You've got some amazing missiles. Even if they don't let you have the Phoenixes on a particular server, the ability to fire off some of those Sparrows, you can do huge amounts of head-on engagements with this thing. You can absolutely dominate. And if this thing does get into a knife fight, being a Navy aircraft, it's absolutely fine at low speed. Really good pilots on this can do some amazing things, both at long-range standoff jousting and at very short-range knife fight conditions. There's a reason it tends to be this kind of credit aircraft or rare aircraft or very far rear field aircraft in those settings, because it is such a good aircraft there. Now, I should say there is a definite difference between the versions. Normally in those Cold War settings, you're going to be flying out some variant of the F-14A, and notably the big difference there between the A and the B is the A has much weaker engines, and you do feel them. If you're used to flying the F-14B and you jump into a Cold War server that's featuring the A, yeah, you will feel it in terms of thrust and weight. You do have to adapt a lot there. It's also worth noting that there are further restrictions. The 14A Early has a much less useful RWR. It still is there, and it still is usable. It's closer to the F-100's RWR. It's a little harder to pass and get information from. And the export version, again, cuts back on some of the features, particularly the camera pod, which is really nice. I like having the forward-looking camera, which auto-tracks to aircraft, because that makes identification really quite easy. When you can see on a zoomed-in view right in front of your display that you are looking at a MiG-21, you're not going to misidentify it. Now, if we flip over then and jump on to your more modern servers, this thing does struggle when it is pitted against the likes of the Flanker or the F-18. It doesn't quite keep up there. Certainly, it can still compete. And again, good players absolutely can take the F-14 out. I've enjoyed taking the F-14 out on more modern servers, but you are a little bit of an underdog there. Your radar isn't quite as good, and the fact that you have to hand off radar controls to Jester in the back, the AI Rio, he's all right. I've heard a lot of complaints about him, but honestly, he isn't as bad in the F-14 as he is in the F-4. He will do some weird things. He will tell you he can't possibly get a lock, followed by immediately getting a lock. He will identify enemies as friendlies. He will lock the wrong thing. But, you know, all of that is dealable. You can make your way around that. And, of course, you can absolutely just outright replace Jester. You can have a human in the back. One big thing to note is if you do want a human Rio, the human Rio does need the module as well. And I would say if you are wanting a human Rio, do make sure it's someone you know, someone you're on Discord comms with, so that you can be regularly talking. You absolutely have to talk to your Rio if you want to make the most out of them. But even then, even with a human Rio, or even when you get lucky with Jester, you're still going to be at a bit of a disadvantage on those modern servers. The Phoenix just isn't the same as an AIM-120. It's good, it's great, it's this wonderful Fox 3 missile, but it just doesn't have the same capabilities as an AIM-120, which means in long-range jousts, you're going to be at a big disadvantage. Equally, your radar just isn't as powerful as some of the things like in an F-18, and especially against Flaming Cliffs 3 modules, which tend to have really super-powered radar. Equally, although this thing turns really quite well, you are going to struggle against those modern generation jets, the Flanker, the F-18. Absolutely not that you can't compete, but do go into this realizing that if you're flying this on a more modern setting, you are going to be the underdog there. Now, one thing that is absolutely worth noting, although we normally talk about the F-14 as this air superiority fighter, and it's great at that role, you can absolutely use this in a ground attack role. You do have access to the Lantern targeting pod, which is kind of baby's first lightning targeting pod. Doesn't have the resolution, it's not as useful, but it serves the same purpose. It's all handled by the backseat. Jester can absolutely use it, your Rio can absolutely use it, and that means that you can get laser-guided bomb delivery, and the F-14's a big plane. It can carry quite a lot underneath it, and so this can be surprisingly decent on multiple different eras in that bomb delivery bomb truck role. The Bombcat is a lot of fun to take out. Again, it is not quite as competitive as the more modern aircraft. The A-10 can absolutely drop more ordnance, and the A-10 and the F-18 and the F-16, they have a better targeting pod. It's a little bit easier with the controls to get everything that you need there. So again, modern settings, you're going to be a bit of the underdog taking this thing out, which makes sense. This is an older aircraft. Now we're on to the recommendation portion, where I give you some idea of whether I think you should be buying this module. And again, as with so many modules in DCS, it does depend on what you're looking for. If you want the best plane out there, the one that can just dominate the skies in any server, then no, the F-14 doesn't quite compete with things like the F-18. If you want something that has all the bells and whistles, is as modern as we can get in DCS until the F-35 comes out, and you want full fidelity on top of that, yeah, the F-18, absolutely. But if you're wanting something with a lot more character, a lot more personality to it, then yes, the F-14 is awesome. And honestly, in terms of blue for cap jets, this is my favourite. I would prefer to take this out rather than an F-18 any day. Same, I prefer this over the F-16 for cap duties. Do prefer the F-16 for ground attack on more modern servers, but this just has a lot of fun taking it out. And yeah, you're the underdog, but that just means when you win, it's that little bit sweeter. And the fact that this can have compatibility with Cold War servers means that you can bring this out on all sorts of different eras. There you are going to be absolutely the top dog, and so you can use what you've learned in the more modern servers and bring it back to the Cold War, and you can absolutely just kick ass with this thing. To me personally, I really like where this sits in terms of its era. I don't have a huge problem with modern jets, but they do remove you a bit. It does feel a bit like flying this computer. With fly-by-wire, things like the F-18 are just too smooth, too easy to control. You don't feel like you're flying a big jet aircraft. It feels a bit more arcadey, even though that is realistic for the plane. It just kind of dumbs all of that down. But with the F-14 being this kind of last era of fly-by-cable, I feel this is kind of the best of both worlds. You have a cool radar, you have some useful features with navigation and so on, nice and easy to use there, but at the same time, this feels like you're flying something right out of the Cold War. And in terms of being iconic aircraft, this is the iconic aircraft. This is your Top Gun aircraft. This is the one that we all saw growing up when we were watching Tom Cruise fly his plane. This is that aircraft, and it feels as cool as it did watching those films. The other thing just to say here that I've not mentioned yet is, yeah, this thing absolutely carrier capable, and doing carrier recoveries and carrier takeoffs in this is just a lot of fun. And yeah, if you have a VR headset, you absolutely owe it to yourself to do a catapult takeoff in the F-14 at some point. Even if you just pick this module up on a trial just to do that, it is worth it. It is a absolutely outstanding experience. Now, we will be getting still more patches and more updates to come. We're expecting big things when the BU comes out. This module does not get the BU upgrade, but it is getting some aspects of that, particularly those that are working around how Jester works are going to be ported back into this. So I think this is nearing the end of its early access period, but we are still going to be getting some improvements there. So yeah, that is my review, and yes, I did pick a bit of a weird time to put this out, considering the update is just around the corner. The new BU may come out before this video comes out. It does seem very imminent. If not, it's going to be very, very close. But I did feel like just getting this video out so people are on the fence who aren't really sure if they should be buying into the F-14 do get an idea of what this one is like as it stands. And as always, do let me know what you thought of this. If you agree with my views, if you have your own views, please do let me know down below. If you found this video useful, please do consider leaving a like or comment. Doesn't cost you anything and does really help promote these videos in the channel. And if there are any aircraft that you would like me to prioritise in putting out these reviews, again, please let me know down below. I've been prioritising these very much based on what people have been requesting, both in my Discord channel and in the YouTube comments. If you're looking for something else to watch while we're here, then absolutely I'll be putting a link to my playlist with all of my DCS reviews. And as always, until next time, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.